Hey gang, Mark Sweeney here from Austin Dental Spa in beautiful, hot summer Austin, Texas, where we're getting up around 100 degrees, but I hear my friends up on the Northeast coast are getting just as hot a weather up in New York and Washington, D.C. So we don't feel so bad about it. We're used to that stuff down here. So anyway, if this is your first Wisdom Wednesday, stick around for a few minutes. We always have a interesting scientific topic, and today is no difference, coming straight out of UC Berkeley. And I think you'll find it very interesting. It ties into some things, some concepts I've heard most of my life about the human mind and how memory lapses can happen. But before we get into that, we also end with a health tip. So stick around for the health tip. That'll be helpful today because it's about hearing. And before we get into all that, the voting is still going on for the best of, or what they now call Community Choice Awards. I don't know why they decided to change that a couple of years ago, but to us it's still Best of Austin. There's voting for the best breakfast taco, the best brunch spot, the best chiropractor, the best cosmetic surgeon, and the best cosmetic dentist, the best dental clinic, and the best dentist. We're in all three categories. So log in to statesman.com contest, and it will take you right to that page. You've got to put your email in one time because they track it to make sure that you don't vote multiple times in the same day, but you can vote once every day, and we need every one of those votes because last year we got edged out by a fairly new practice, only 10-year-old practice on the east side of town that was able to stuff the ballot boxes with and mobilize their patient load. So we got a little complacent last year. We were in the final three in every category, but we got nudged out. So we don't intend to repeat that again this year. So if you can log in and vote, the voting goes until June 30th, which is Monday. So midnight Monday night, it's over, done with. We won't find out the winners until September, but they will announce a final three. Right now there's 5 to 7 entries in each category. So, and again, we're in Best Cosmetic Dental Clinic, Best Dental Clinic, and Best Dentist. So look for all three of those. They're in the first two categories on beauty and health, but we would appreciate your vote. And with that, we're going to get into our last Wisdom Wednesday in the month of June. As you know, if you've tuned in before, we always have a theme for every month. And this month it was June Jams, and we had a late patient at the end of the day, and I left my cell phone back in the back. But if you tuned in last week, you know we started with Bob Marley. We're jamming, and so several people said, hey, that was a kind of a fun start. We didn't know you could dance, and I didn't know I could either till I saw it on the video. So I have video proof now. So anyway, we're doing June Jams where we're getting you in the groove, and we've spent all month trying to kind of let that be the theme and help you find your groove and jam out in summer of 2025. Now, let's get right into our scientific part today. This is very, very interesting and brand new, hot off the presses stuff. As I said earlier, UC Berkeley did this. I always like when our studies come from the good old US of A instead of from Taiwan, or seems like we get a lot from Finland, Stockholm, places like that. Even had a couple from the Netherlands. We've had some from the UK. They're very active in this kind of research, scientific research over in Europe. So anyway, this got published last month in the Journal of Behavior Research and Therapy. This one psychologist at University of Berkeley did a study on how much does memory play and habits play, those two things, how much influence do they have on helping you change your habits or behaviors. Psychologists have known for a long time, you know, you hear all the time, follow the science. Well, this hasn't worked out very well with these science-based psychological treatments, because they found that after a therapy session, most people within a couple of hours after an intense therapy session have only retained maybe 30% of what happens. So the other 70%, they're left to they ran it through their own filter and they only remember 30%. I've seen studies over the years that say when you go to a lecture, continuing education is where I usually hear this, the lecturers in dentistry would always say, we're videotaping it so that you can access it and watch it again, because studies show that within 12 hours you're down to 30% of what they just went through, and within a week you've only retained like 10%. 2 or 3 major topics, and you've forgotten all the rest. So if you can go back and see it again, and we're going to see this play out in this psychologist study. The author was a woman named Allison Harvey, and she wanted to see just how much memory and habit played on changing habits. So like I said, 30% of the information is retained within a couple of hours after a therapy session. So she looked into, well, how can we increase that? And I think you'll find it very interesting that she used some fairly common technology to accomplish that. But routines, I've heard habits. My good old buddy Zig Ziglar from back in the 60s and 70s, motivational speaker, used to constantly say, nearly every lecture, he said that that a good habit takes 21 days. 21 days of daily reoccurrence in order to get a habit. These guys in this study said anywhere from 18 days to 36 weeks. That's more than half a year in order to successfully change behavior or change habits. So what Dr. Harvey did is she turned to technology, something very similar to what we use here in the dental office, to remind people that they've got an appointment tomorrow. She sent text messages at strategic periods during the day, so that, for an example, if one of the habits was to go to bed earlier to get more sleep, she would have a text message sent to them about 9 p.m. saying, at 10 p.m. I will dim the lights and put my phone down. And she found that the success jumped up if they sent that reminder, that text message, to get into people's daily thought processes and remind them an hour before that this is a commitment you've made. You need to start doing that right now and get ready within an hour. Put your phone down, turn it off, turn the lights off. And then the next morning, they found that if they followed up with a text message saying, did you do it? If they said, yes, I did, I achieved my goal, then they got a reward in the form of a fun fact that they could use, just those little factoids, something fun. If they didn't do it, if they responded no, then it just gently reminded them, we're going to try again tomorrow. We're going to text you at 9 o'clock tomorrow night and remind you that you made a commitment to go to bed at 10. They found they didn't significantly improve it, but she said the results in this approach was encouraging, is the words that they used in this study, but that it did make a noticeable bump in the ability of these people to achieve what they had said in therapy sessions that they wanted to achieve, and in changing habits. So if you're thinking about changing a habit, either do it yourself or maybe have a friend partner with you to send you a text message an hour before you're supposed to go to the gym or go to bed early or do something like that, and then check with you the next day to see if you actually did it. And that feedback loop is what they call that. The feedback loop increased the possibility of changing your habits. So it's all about having a better you at the end of the day. So here's my health tip. Hearing. buy a good set of custom earplugs, especially if you like to go to live music. Austin is the live music capital of the world. I go to my fair share of concerts because they're all over the place, especially this time of the year when the weather is nice. Very rarely do we get rained out, although I did get rained out a month and a half ago at a Tedeschi Trucks outdoor concert at what used to be Waterloo Park. Now it's Moody Amphitheater. It poured down raining on us the whole time. I just went, well, once there were 3 other guys with us, and we just went, okay, once you get wet, you can't get any wetter. And so we just stood outside in the rain because the music was so good. But anyway, the researchers say that anything over 70 decibels will start to damage hearing. Not necessarily permanently, but can damage hearing. And most concerts they've measured are between 90 and 120 decibels. So, we're not talking about a major expense here. The New York Times recently reported that they rated a bunch of different earphones, and for $38 you can buy Loop Experience 2 earplugs. New York Times named that as their top pick. Another one of those evaluating kind of services called Wirecutter said the best earplugs for concerts was the popular high fidelity earplugs from Eargasm. They were only $42. They get a prize for sure, a gold prize for the name of the company, Eargasm. You can't beat that. So nice little play on words. Anyway, protect that hearing because you can't get it back once it's gone. So I hope that's been helpful information. I know I threw a lot of stuff at you today, but it's the end of June Jams, and I wanted to get that all in. So next week on Wednesday, we will introduce the new theme for July, and we'll bring you another version of Wisdom Wednesday.